up, fuzzball?
From Down Under.
Do. Or do not. There is no try.
G'day, mate. How you going?
Hi there, Fantha Trackers. This is Adam O'Brien, the Fantha From Down Under. Welcome back to the Fantha From Down Under podcast, live here on Fantha Tracks Radio. Recorded from, of course, Quinlan's Cantina, out here on the Gold Coast of Australia. And tonight we've got a lot of Star Wars fun for you. We're going to be looking at some of the new releases out here in Australia from Star Wars books. We're also going to be looking at, of course, some great Star Wars interviews with, of course, Richard Woloski of Skywalking Through Neverland, here to chat about Star Wars and, of course, his podcast and what he's been up to. We've also got Sander De Lange of TK421, the Belgium fan club of Star Wars. And, of course, he joins us from the Netherlands to chat about his thoughts on Star Wars role-playing games. And at the tail end of the episode, we've also got him coming back to chat about one of our greatest source books from the old days of Star Wars, and it is, of course, Jason Fry's amazing Essential Guide to Warfare. And it really is a walk down memory lane with that too. It is the Legends line now, but there's a lot of history there to check out, right back to the days of the dawn of the Jedi. And, of course, joining us from Techno Retro Dads, we have JediShua and, of course, his dear pal and co-pilot, that is, of course, Shazbazzar, here to chat about Solo and what they're up to on their podcast of late. So let's get into it here on the Fantha From Down Under.
Did you hear that? They shut down the main reactor. Will be destroyed for sure.
Joining us here now from Techno Retro Dads is JediShua and Shazbazzar, here to chat about Solo, a Star Wars story, and about their podcast, Techno Retro Dads. Here we go. All right, welcome back here to the Fantha From Down Under. Joining me from the United States of America is my two favourite podcasts, the most entertaining and fun podcasters you're going to find all over the place. The one, the only Techno Retro Dads, Shazbazzar and JediShua. Hey fellas, how are you?
Greetings, programs. It is a fantastic day to be with the Fantha From Down Under. that was the Alabama version of that. I love it. I'm a bit Alabamian. Just a bit, yeah. Nothing wrong with that. G'day. It's wonderful to be with you again.
Awesome. Well, guys, Star Wars is at a great place right now. We've got a brand new show coming out, Star Wars Resistance, which looks great. But we've just had Solo, a Star Wars story. Have you guys seen the film?
I love Solo, a Star Wars story. Not many people share this with me. There are a few. It's my favorite of the last four movies. I'm with you. It has got it's fun. The humor is right on track. It is Star Wars humor. It's funny. It's quirky, and it goes and it's gone, and then you get to the real action again. I love seeing Han and Lando and that relationship begin. I want to see more of it, and I the talk's going. We might not do that. I think you let some winds blow over, and you're going to see more of it, because I did not want to see anybody but Harrison Ford play Han Solo. Absolutely was opposed to this whole idea.
You were really opposed to it. More than I expected you to be, for sure.
Well, if he was a little kid, I wouldn't have a problem. But, people look mostly the same as they get older. Alan, or Eric, what's his name? Aldenreich?
Alden.
Aaron.
Aaron.
Yeah, Who's playing Solo? He doesn't sound anything like Harrison Ford.
Is it Han or Han?
I'm a Lando guy. It's always been Han.
Han, yeah, same here. I think even George says that. He's just like, it's Han Solo.
But you've got this relationship budding here. He doesn't sound like him. He doesn't have the crooked grin, but he's so optimistic about everything, and everything collapses around him at the end of this movie. It's like, this is where the cynic comes in. This is the Han Solo we have all seen, and his optimism is reborn by the end of Star Wars. Then, what are you looking at? I know what I'm doing. There's a good song about that, by the way. I know what I'm doing. A friend of mine wrote it. Good buddy.
And we get Woody Harrelson.
I don't listen to that kind of music.
And Woody Harrelson, yeah. My brother really did not like Woody Harrelson in it. But, yeah, he said, I see Woody Harrelson. I said, I thought that when I heard that he was cast, and then as soon as he comes on the stage, he's not Woody Harrelson. He puts himself in the role so completely. I buy it all. I loved every part of this movie. There was nothing flawed to me. It was just 2 hours of fun.
It really was.
2 hours of Star Wars fun.
Well, there is a bit of a story going with Woody, how he got the role. Apparently, they took him to, I think somewhere in LA, a local bar, and anyway, they had the script, and they gave him a drink, handed over the script, and he looked, he goes, "Oh, cheers."
That's it.
Oh, man. Well, I can't get enough of it, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to get enough of it around here because it didn't last nearly as long as every other Star Wars movie that's come out. But it'll be around soon, and I'll be able to buy it and watch it whenever I want at home. And I don't know. There have been so many good movies that have come out this year. I'm having a hard time keeping track with all my retro movies that I want to watch.
Yeah, like Ready Player One, and you're waiting for the sequel, Ready Player 2.
Woohoo! Yeah.
I think that's definitely going to happen. Definitely.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the turnaround was immediate. As soon as the critics saw the movie, he's writing both the novel and the screenplay, which is kind of difficult because they're so vastly different. But now, did you read the book, Ready Player One?
I did, yeah. I love it.
What did you think about the movie adaptation? Completely different. Was that okay with you?
It was okay. To me, two different stories. That's the way I look at it.
It's two different stories.
It really is.
The theme is the same, but the stories are different.
Yeah, and there's the world feels the same, though. That's the different thing I found. I mean, the movie starts later than the book as well, the way it sort of plays out. And, I mean, just so, again, the structure of where the characters are at as well, maybe.
Yeah. But, people who read the book, I always wonder their feelings on the movie since it is so vastly different. But, sometimes that's bad. I read The Running Man before I watched the movie, and the movie didn't hold up. The movie was a game show.
Yeah.
But with Ready Player One, I think each one stands on its own merits.
Oh, it does. It does. While we are on that Stephen King story, or should we say, Richard Bachman, I've got to say, I still want to see that movie with Tom Hardy in the lead as Ben Richards, and I want to see it directed by somebody really strong like Nolan. I mean, you could actually really do that movie. Yeah.
And it's already dark, so he wouldn't be darkening it.
It's perfect for Christopher Nolan.
Tom Hardy as Ben Richards would be perfect.
It's spot on.
It really would.
It is. Now, obviously, you guys run one of the greatest podcasts out there in Australia. We love it because it reminds us of those great Brecky TV shows we used to have, like Agro's Cartoon Connection, and of course, the likes of Boris's Breakfast Club. And wait till these guys see what Boris was like, because then they'll know what I mean by cool show. But tell the folks at home here about your show.
Schwa, this is you.
Okay, well, you know what? Shaz and I, we used to just talk all the time back and forth amongst ourselves, just the two of us, about all the things we grew up with. And we realized that despite the fact of living thousands of miles apart growing up, we basically had the same childhood. And all the TV shows and Saturday morning cartoons and breakfast cereals and movies and board games and toys, everything. I mean, it was the same. And then we found we weren't the only two that enjoyed these things. So we started talking about it on air created a podcast to revisit all of these amazing things we grew up with. And then we noticed that so many of those things are either back or rebooted or remembered and shared amongst the generations that we are raising as parents now. So we like to share those with our kids, and it's been an interesting ride in the last going on 6 years here, because now our kids are getting older, and we're able to share even more with them, things that we wouldn't have shared with them when they were younger kids. And so it's been such a great experience to be able to share everything we grew up with and revisit it today and see how some of those things are back and or still around, in the case of like Star Wars. So that's what we talk about, just the stuff that we grew up with and how we share it with the new generations today.
Absolutely awesome. And where can the folks here at home catch your show?
Well, you can catch us over at retrozap.com. That's the network we're on. We're also at technoretrodads.libsyn. No, that's not it. See, I blew that completely. It's on okay. Libsyn. You can catch us on iTunes or really most podcast catchers. You can get in touch with us on the Twitter at TechnoRetroDads, or you can get in touch with us over at Facebook. Shua is the online guru of being able to keep in touch with people. I don't know how he does it and still get sleep, but he does.
We're allowed to sleep. Nobody told me that. The other thing is I recommend coming over onto our Discord channel, and you can find that if you go to the RetroZap page. You can find the little invite for Discord. It's basically like a fun forum where you can talk to other listeners, or what we call earbuds, right on our show. And we're over there sometimes, and then there's other great bloggers and podcast hosts, and you can talk to. And it's just fun. And Adam, I know you go over there, and you have a lot of fun with the people that are on the Discord channel too.
That's right, especially Darth Taxes. How are you doing? Thank you very much, folks. I want to say to you guys, you give us a lot of great entertainment every week in, week out for all of us here, and for all of us Star Wars fans. May the Force be with you too, because it is already.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All right there, Fantha Trackers. There's lots of Episode 9 news going around right now. Of course, a lot of it's rumour, like most Star Wars news, unless you've heard it from StarWars.com itself. And, of course, a lot of that you can find on www.fanthatracks.com. We're not going to dwell on the news and the rumours right now. You can go and check those out for yourself. But what we are going to do is talk about some of the new releases that have been out here in Australia of late. One of those, of course, is the amazing From a Certain Point of View. That's right. Now, this is one that's just come back out into paperback out here in Australia. It's been out for a while in hardcover and large format sort of paperback, I suppose, it came out in as well. But this is a real great celebration for the 40th anniversary of A New Hope. And again, these are 40 separate stories, short stories, that's right. It's an anthology, which deal with characters viewing the different parts of Star Wars that we know from their point of view. So it's an interesting thing on, of course, the famous lines by, of course, Star Wars resident wizard. The resident wizard being, of course, Ben Kenobi, who says, all truths are from a certain point of view. Well, in this case, we're seeing different scenes of Star Wars that we know very well from the eyes of different characters that are in those scenes. And that's what makes it interesting. And, of course, we get some great offshoots of different scenes, whether it's in the cantina, whether it's stormtroopers, which are some of those stormtroopers that stunned Princess Leia to bring her, obviously, in captivity to Darth Vader at the start of the film. We've also got ones where we see from the perspective of Tusken Raiders, which I thought was fantastic too. Again, that is really interesting to see all these different perspectives from a film that we all know so well. And how many times have we watched? Hundreds of different times, maybe even 1,000 times on TV, video, DVD, you name it. But I've got to say, this is great. And I've actually read some of these stories a few times now because there's just so much depth in it. And, of course, you got so many great authors and authors that I probably haven't heard of before as well, which I'm definitely going to follow because I think all of their work is just fantastic. And, of course, Ahsoka herself, Ashley Eckstein, wrote one of these as well. Of course, you got John Jackson Miller. We've got also Paul S. Kemp from some previous Star Wars work. Obviously, you all know Greg Rucka and Will Wheaton, Gary Witter, Christy Golden, Kieran Gillen, Jason Fry, Alexander Freed. It's all in there. And Pablo Hidalgo, Claudia Gray. The list goes on. Such amazing work all in one volume. And, of course, it's only retailing out here in Australia for $19.95 at local bookstores in this new paperback edition. So well worth checking out. And, of course, the Marvel line of comics has started to, again, finally show up in Aussie distributors out here. So I'm going to be digging into all the different issues of the Marvel Star Wars line. I'm not somebody that was really into the idea of going through, I think it was the year before last, I was using the Marvel app to read a lot of these. And look, it looks fantastic on digital, but I'm somebody that wants hard copy. I appreciate art. I'm an illustrator myself, so I like the idea of being able to actually view the art and see it for what it is in print. It's something about the chemical process of print, even though most of it's digital these days. I love offset print when it comes to a lot of these. But again, this is a great a bunch of stories. I don't really want to spoil all of it either because I've enjoyed all these different lines. Even the bartender in the Cantina bar, we get to see the modal nodes and things from their perspective. We also get to see a little bit of Qui-Gon Jinn in here. And, of course, Kenobi doubting himself, even as he's helping Luke. And, again, of course, the spirit of Qui-Gon's there to console him as his Jedi Master. So this book is amazing. You've got to check it out. It gets a 4.5 out of 5 on the Fantha scale.
Do or do not.
The Fantha.
Welcome to Fantha Tracks, the Fantha From Down Under, brought to you by Fantha Tracks Radio on iTunes and Stitcher and you name it, it's all out there. And joining me, the Fantha From Down Under today is Sander De Lange, all the way from the Netherlands, and you'll know him from, of course, TK421, the Belgian Star Wars fan club, which produces magazines and a whole heap of different events for Star Wars. Sander, it's been a little while since we've chatted last, mate. How you been?
Yeah, I've been great. Well, we have been chatting offline a lot, but never in a podcast. So yeah, that has been a while. Yeah, I've been great. I've been mostly focused on my own fictional universe that I'm trying to make, as well as quite a few things with Star Wars locations and other movie locations in general. I've been compiling a very big-ass database on Google Earth from Marvel movies, sure, basically everything that we geeks love. So yeah, and I hope to roll that out one day online. I'm not quite sure yet how I will do that, but yeah, I've been busy behind the scenes. And of course, as you said, for TK41, various articles. At the moment, I've been working on a retrospective about the Clone Wars, because the next magazine we are doing will be a look back at the whole series, because there's an anniversary currently going on. 10 years, I think, by now.
That's
it was. Right. Yeah, 10 years. And my article will basically about all the episodes that haven't been made, because Filoni had 8 seasons planned, and we only got the first 5 of them, and then some missing episodes here and there from season 6. But basically, over the years, Filoni have spilled quite a lot about those other episodes that we haven't seen yet, and I've been basically compiling that all together in one article and basically try to find out what direction he would have taken the series if it would have gone much further than season 5.
Yeah, I've always thought that somehow it may overlap into, obviously, post Revenge of the Sith. I think there's always going to be some tie that maybe the last season was going to be after the fall of the Jedi.
I think it was, yes, because the latest in the timeline that I know that he was planning was Mandalore, another siege with the Darth Maul ruling it. Ahsoka, who was already back with the Jedi by then, well, not quite back, but still working with the Jedi and the clone troopers back, a bit of an independent of sorts. And she was sent with her own squad of clone troopers, among them Rex, who already have received a new helmet painting, more orange and white, to symbolize their connection with Ahsoka. And basically they went to Mandalore to try to depose Darth Maul of the throne. And try to capture him. And that's also something that never quite happened yet, but there has been quite a few references to it already. Mm-hmm. And I think what would have been the last scenes in the episode is already in the Ahsoka novel, because there she and Rex fight Darth Maul in a flashback, mm-hmm. and Maul gets away somehow.
He seems to do that, doesn't he? He keeps popping up in animated features and possible live actions. For I'm not going to say it in case that's a spoiler for some people out there. But
people have seen Solo by now, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. But it's an interesting thing that they brought him back for that, because the way I look at it, they've really put a final thing of it, obviously, in the third season of Rebels. And, Stephen Stanton came in to voice Alec Guinness, Ben Kenobi. And it was very much a final, right, this is it. But the fact that they brought him back, that would have been a few years prior, obviously, with Solo, the live-action film. But very interesting where that can go.
Yeah, but I do think it's really great, because people like you and me, and probably most of the listeners here, who have always followed Clone Wars and Rebels, so for us it was a surprise that, he appears. But for everyone else in the cinema, especially around me when I was watching Solo, both times in cinema, 2-3 times by now, and every time people were like, what? How can he be back? He died on Naboo. I was like, nope, you have to watch 5 seasons Clone Wars, 4 seasons of Rebels. Good luck. It really validates the importance of the animated series.
Oh, it is, yeah.
I mean, we can always say that the Clone Wars, it was Lucas and Filoni making it, so it's important. It's new stories from Lucas. It should have been. It's just as important as any movie, in my opinion. But somehow there are always people who just forget to watch them, and I'm like, you shouldn't.
Yeah, 100%. If you're a Star Wars fan, you've got to catch everything. I mean, you've got to read the novels now, the graphic novels, the comics, even the role-playing games that are coming out from Fantasy Flight Games have canon material in them.
Yeah, that's sadly the one thing that, due to lack of funding and time, that I'm way, way behind with. Which is a damn shame, because they do produce really good quality product.
They do. They certainly do. I mean, and Keith Capel, who I've had on the show here before, Keith's been great with that. You see, there's just so much material coming out that, whether you're going to follow the Jedi game or whether you're going to follow Agent Rebellion, or my favourite is Edge of the Empire, because it's headed towards that, that smuggler, scoundrel, crime area, basically. And it's great because you just don't know what's going to happen. It's such a fast, fun game. And I was very excited to play it because it's designed well, looks great, and the information in there is just what you and I love.
It completely is, and I always do appreciate how they still try to bridge the legends and new canon as much together as possibly can. That's always for me the highlight whenever I pick one of those guides up, and I'm like, yeah, all right, hey, that's back, that's still valid. Oh, that's quite a new, interesting way of how to interpret something that we have known in a different way already. So yeah, really good quality product.
It really is. I've always said to any of the listeners listening tonight, think about if you want to get into these games, there's a number of different avenues. There's 3 major games that they've got, plus miniatures games. But if you're into that sort of Han Solo style thing, Edge of the Empire. If you're into more of a Wedge Antilles, X-Wing, Rogue Squadron sort of thing, then Age of Rebellion's where you want to go. And if you want to see it played with the crew of Rebels, check this out. Geg Wars. Just put that out there on YouTube, and you're going to see all of your favourites. Kanan, Freddie Prinze Jr. You're going to see our dear friend Vanessa Marshall on there, of course, Hera. And you're going to see Steve Bloom. That is, of course, Spike from the amazing... Wait for this, you guys are going to love this. Do you remember Cowboy Bebop? He's the main guy off that. You've also got Mary McLynn in there, who was the voice of the amazing show Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. She was the Major, Kusanagi. And, of course, you've got Taylor and the rest of the team there. And they spend a weekend together at Freddie Prinze's place just playing the game Age of Rebellion.
That's actually quite great. I mean, you really must have to send me the YouTube link to that, because I've missed it. And yeah, because that's one of those source books that's really high on my list still to get. That's basically the only one that really delves deep into Rebels and stuff from Rebels. So that's a really important one that really should have been read by everyone who at least enjoyed the show.
100%. Fantasy Flight have also got a Jedi and Sith one called Force and Destiny, and has everything that covers those 2 areas. They've also got the Witches, of course, of Dathomir in there, and any other Force-powered individual. You can play that game. And all these games tie together. But what I like is, too, if that's not quite your cup of tea, they've also got Star Wars Destiny, which is a card game. So it's like a fast setup game. If you're like me, I work 60 hours a week. So sometimes Destiny's great, because you can just set up in 5 minutes and you're ready to go.
Yes. But I always do like the X-Wing miniatures one.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I mean, I'm going to reboot it at the moment. Well, I think they just did. I'm not sure if the first set is already out there or not, but yeah, that's always been one of my favorite. But mostly also because I'm a collector. I mean, action figures, Funko, stuff like that. And that's my main source for all the ship models. I really like how all the ships are in the same scale of each other. So basically, put them all together, and you really have one big, amazing fleet that looks gorgeous.
They really do, and the paint jobs on these are far better than any other. I'm also a mild, I will say, Star Trek fan, and I used to play a game called Star Trek Attack Wing, which is pretty much a knockoff of Star Wars X-Wing. But the thing is, the one thing they stuffed up is their miniatures are terrible. I've had to repaint every one of those miniatures that have come from their line, of whether it's the Enterprise, vice versa. But with X-Wing, they already come in with a fantastic paint job, because they know people will buy that, because Star Wars fans love detail.
We do. I mean, that's what makes the universe so great. I mean, you can just pause, and most of the scenes, you have like 10 different people in the background doing their own stuff.
Yeah.
With their own story to tell, so...
100%.
They're amazing.
They really are. What I love about anything that we've watched, and it starts from the original film, a perfect example of that is in the new Star Wars From a Certain Point of View, which is one I've really enjoyed because they're taking the characters that we always liked, which are the stand around of the heroes. So the heroes will have the front shot, and then you'll have the bartender in Mos Eisley scene, or you'll have Greedo, or you'll have the story of, Ponda Baba, whoever it is. All these characters. That's it,
And most of those stories were quite good, even. There were a few of them that were a bit meh. There was the one, the Tusken I think it was a Tusken Raider lady who goes to that to the Sandcrawler to steal some kind of gem. I think
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. At first glance, people are like, "Yeah, I don't know about that story." I mean, it's not not quite a movie character. It's not quite important in the big scale of things. But when you do realize who has written that story, John Jackson Miller, and you look at, oh, wait a second, we had a Tusken Raider with a gem for an eye in that old Kenobi novel, who is technically still Legends, but in a way, they do make a connection with it, so that's even those little stories that you like, yeah, okay, but if you look a bit further, again, looking at the details, you see a much bigger story.
Yeah, it is. Look, to be perfectly honest, I'm one person that, I see the business decision of Legends versus what they're doing now with canon and tying it all together. But I still think they should have made a ruling on some of the books, and Kenobi should easily have been a canon novel. Easily.
Yep, totally agree.
Yeah. So.
And I'm also like, and of course I am biased, but with stuff like the Rogues Gallery, even the ones that I wasn't able to do with Tim and with Kevin, even the ones before that Leland did. I mean, those were characters who haven't received names in like 30 years for most of them. Yeah. I'm like, just say that all those are valid also. And of course, most of them have already returned by now, so it's they should have been more clear indeed about this could still go, this not, and but that's long in the past anyway. And now we can enjoy two timelines. Yeah. So.
And the thing is, a big shout out to our dear friends Kevin and of course Tim Vighoven out there too. You guys are doing fantastic with what you do with fandom as well. And welcome to the Fantha From Down Under, live on Fantha Tracks Radio. I'm your host Adam O'Brien, and joining me here today on episode 5 is the one, the only, Richard Woloski, the most amazing podcaster, one of the most entertaining when it comes to Star Wars, Disney, and of course, Planet of the Apes. Mate, how are you?
I am doing great after that introduction. Keep on going, I'm listening.
You cover everything, my friend, when it comes to the Disney parks and, of course, Star Wars involvement, the films, and just the amount of energy yourself and, of course, your co-host, your wife, Sarah, bring to the fandom is just such a positive and amazing fun spin, mate. How you been?
We've been doing great and still riding high off of Solo, which I reluctantly announced that we've only seen 4 times.
Oh, wow.
That's not enough.
Oh, my goodness. I have to say I'm about the same. I've only actually seen it 3 times. I've been working so much.
All right, great. You know what? I feel better.
But I did get to see it.
To see this. Like, there's all these other films coming out, but do we want to see Jurassic World? Hold on. There's always Solo again. And last time we had seen it was in 4D. Do you have 4D theaters out there?
We do have a few. I think it's in Sydney, though, not in the local areas.
Oh man, you got to get yourself to a 4D cinema. It's like being on Star Tours, but on steroids.
Oh wow!
It is just amazing, especially that first speeder chase scene. The whole theater just rocks and rolls and turns on 90-degree angles. There's smoke being blown in your face, and you can smell the sulfur of the atmosphere. Just amazing.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
I see it 4D again, and I can't wait just to see the movie again. I just loved it. Loved Solo so much.
One thing we did was we went completely 1980s on it. We went to the last, and I'm pretty sure is particularly here in Queensland, in our state in Australia, the last drive-in movie theatre. In Australia, I got to see 80s style, wound down the windows, put the little eggshell speaker on the side of the thing, and it went, and all of a sudden those, we see the opening on Corellia. I think at the end of the day, that feeling of just going back to the old days, because the last one I think I saw, or last film, was Supergirl. I saw it the drive-in.
Wow.
It's
last movie I seen at drive-in was Saturday Night Fever.
Oh, wow.
Back in 1977.
Oh, my goodness. There you go.
Well, you've seen school at a drive-in. Oh, I feel like you won up to me, my friend. I saw it in 4D, but you saw it at a drive-in.
That's it. Retro.
All drive-in theaters around Los Angeles are now swap meet plazas.
Oh, my goodness. Now, I was just so enthralled with Alden Ehrenreich straight away as Solo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When I first saw the trailer, I immediately was hooked, and I know there was a lot of controversy around casting this young actor, but like, hey, whoa, put the brakes on, people. Watch and then judge. Don't judge and then watch. And I believed from the first frame that this guy was not Harrison Ford, but he was Han Solo. He embodied everything from the crooked smile to the walk to the stand to the way he held his blaster. And it was only mere seconds into the film, and I was so pulled into everything Alden had to offer.
Oh, yeah, big time. And I mean, look, we've been down this road before where big roles like that have been recast because of the younger time sort of frame. I suppose big one would be Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan Kenobi being recast with Ewan McGregor. But again, it's
had a couple of decades in between. So I could see people getting onto that bandwagon a little faster.
Oh, yeah. And I think the thing is, Harrison's such an integral part of the character. I mean, he defined it to a certain degree, but then there's the character itself, and Alden's just really driven straight through that. And I think giving him a dash of hope, which is the one thing that we're going to see in this film in particular, start to slip away towards the end of the film as the reality of the world around him encapsulates him.
Yeah, even at the end, I felt he still had so much hope in him. This was a character that just saw the good and the positive and everything, because at the end of the day, I think he knew he could talk himself out of any situation, and even being in the layers of Corellia, under what he had to go through, he still had so much positive in him, and I love that about him. And if he had been the jaded Han Solo we had met in A New Hope, it wasn't much of a story arc. But seeing how he just thought so positively about everything, and hey, watch this, and yeah, well, that was a little close there, and boy, I didn't think we were gonna make that, but we did. I loved his can-do attitude.
Yeah, definitely. I think in some ways, Emilia Clarke's Kira, particularly even at the start, has that sort of quality that we saw in Han in A New Hope, and after that, obviously. I think she's, gone through that life and is jaded already. And I think it's sort of like a little bit of a red herring of what we're going to see in the future for Han.
Yeah, and I think it's Kira who is the one that puts all of this jaded persona into Han after what she does to him, and after she leaves him at the very end of Solo. I think he can see the writing on the wall, and that's his first step into that world of cynicism.
Oh, definitely. What I loved about it too, the start of the film, we see again finally Corellia, which we've read about for countless times in the old books, and kind of always had an idea in my mind what it was like. I've seen it in the games, like the old Rogue Squadron back in the old Nintendo days. But what I loved about it was again, they one-upped my own sort of inner vision of what this thing would be, and it's kind of like a industrial version of Camino in some ways.
Yeah, I can see that. Or the underworld of Coruscant. This is almost like what we would have gotten with Star Wars 1313. And something I was always looking forward to, and disappointed we never got it. But we got shades of it here. And you know what? I'll take it.
Oh, definitely. I love that start. Sort of, it's particularly with the characters that he's stuck in this little world before he takes that first step on his hero's journey in this film. It kind of felt again a little bit like heading into that Jabba the Hutt sort of area where, I mean, yes, we got a very sort of smaller crime lord in some ways. but it's that soul fraternity that they've got so much power around them. No one dares to go up against them, but Han takes that step. He, again, as you say, talking his way around things.
That's what he's best at. Just like in Force Awakens, he makes that reference that I can talk my way out of this, and he's being surrounded by gangs, but you know what? He never broke a sweat. Han is Han. If he can do anything, he can talk himself out of a outmanned gunfight. Or even talk himself into an outmanned gunfight like we saw in Solo when he's going up against Enfys Nest and her Marauders. Like, Han, you know it. You're so far outnumbered. And you know what? He tried to talk himself out of it. Didn't work out. It's like, okay, now Beckett, it's your turn till I think of something else.
I remember years ago, my mum took me to see Return of the Jedi when it first came out. And we went to the movie theaters, and she walked out. She said, "Yeah, I love Han Solo, and I certainly love Harrison Ford, but he's such a used car salesman."
Yeah.
It kind of rings true a little bit in ways. Always trying to get himself in and out of things, or talk himself into things sometimes. But no, it's great. And I love the meeting of him and Chewbacca.
Yeah. Did you see that coming when they tossed him down into the beast, and with the beast in its cage?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I wasn't sure because I actually was thinking, okay, maybe there's another adventure after this one on Mimban where they're going to maybe go to Kashyyyk. I thought that's maybe what they were going to do, but I kind of thought when the dead giveaway was the foot. As soon as the foot came in the shot. Yeah, because it was kind of like, I thought, is it a Rancor? What is this thing going to be? And then I'm like...
It's not going to be a Rancor. Yeah, me included, the beast down in a cage. We've seen this before.
Yeah.
Then when you see the muddy, dirty Wookiee legs step into the frame, oh no, this is not who I think it is. And then they cut to that low angle of Chewbacca, and he's just a muddy, muddy mess. And you see the armored remains around him. Like, ooh, Chewie, I hope you didn't spitfire them like you did the Porg. I don't want to go there. But I love that meeting between the two.
Oh yeah, and straight away, Han, again, talking his way out of something, but in Shriwook.
Yeah, and it's great that we saw a little bit of that in Most Wanted, the book that just came out about a month ago. That showed the events leading up to Solo and how Han knew a little bit of Shriwook. That was brilliant.
Oh, it's great. It's brilliant. I love that a lot of the books recently have really been on par with a lot of this stuff, unlike any others in the past. They've always been pretty good at tying little things here and there.
Now they're all one timeline.
Yeah, they are. I mean, even I think one of my favourites is From a Certain Point of View, just how they're tying in all the incidental sort of characters in and around A New Hope.
Yeah, I loved A Certain Point of View. I just didn't think we necessarily needed the point of view of a Dianoga.
Yeah.
As fun as that story was, like, we don't need every single character and creature to have a background and development. Why can't it just be a Dianoga? Why can't Rey's parents just be Rey's parents who were junk dealers looking for a quick buzz that afternoon?
Oh, 100%. But I love we get these other characters around Han, and particularly on Mimban, where we get Woody Harrelson, which I didn't know how he was going to go in Star Wars, but again, we get a character that kind of, I suppose, is the, for lack of a better term, mentor to Han.
Yeah, and at first I was kind of skeptical about Woody Harrelson. I was okay with Alden Ehrenreich because he didn't have as much baggage, as they say, behind him. He can come in fresh, but Woody Harrelson had just come off of War for the Planet of the Apes. And knowing him from Woody on Cheers, like, are we going to just see those characters? But he's just one of those actors that can meld into a character. And even though this character is not too far from the other character he plays, he just did it. He just did it, and within seconds, I forgot it was Woody Harrelson. I was just watching Tobias Beckett and seeing him. I think that first shot of him spinning those guns as he's blasting his way through the warfield of Mimban, it was sold it. Seeing him in that silhouette, oh, you got that image in your head. And if that's what was their intention, Ron Howard or Lord and Miller, if that was their intention, then perfect. It really, really worked.
Yeah, and there's sort of, I think, touches of not only what you're going to see in future of what Han himself will take on, but also there's little bits of Lee Van Cleef in that performance from the Dollars trilogy.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't think about that until right now. Good call.
It really is. I mean, you think about it, like he's kind of, and he's a mercenary. There's no getting around that. That's what the character is, and he's opportunist. But I think in some ways there's, like he's got his own moral or ethical code's probably the thing. That character, and it's very much what Lee Van Cleef was doing with the character in For a Few Dollars More in particular. And you could see that difference between him and the character Blondie played by Clint Eastwood. But yeah, I think there's enough there to really build that in between the two. But again, Mimban, we get to see it from Splinter in the Mind's Eye. How cool was that?
Oh, I was so excited. I love me some 1970s references, and I loved Mimban, and the fact that they included the Cloud Riders from the classic Marvel Star Wars comics.
Yeah.
How
good was that?
I was all over this movie just because of those references.
Oh, yeah. We get Emphys Nest.
And that trailer, when we see Chewbacca giving a head bump to that other Wookiee, I was thinking that's going to be Mala from the Star Wars Holiday Special. Mm-hmm. This will go down as my favorite Star Wars movie.
Oh, yeah. And I love that
these filmmakers knew their Star Wars.
Oh, yeah. And the fact that even the ones that we do see on Kessel a little bit later that he frees aren't exactly the same Wookiees that, from maybe his city on Kashyyyk. Again, I think they were malnourished ones because of obviously being in captivity there on Kessel. But again, they're thinking beyond just the Wookiees that were there on the planet. I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And we get to see more Wookiees, and the fact that one Wookiee Sagwa looked like his mask hadn't been finished yet when they started filming.
Yeah.
Kind of threw me off. But if you look at the visual dictionary, the Solo visual dictionary, it says that because he's been beaten and malnourished and kept in the spice mines of Kessel for so long, his fur starting to deteriorate and patches are falling off. Well, that's all well and good if you read the book. But if you don't read the book, you just think, you guys couldn't have finished that mask before shooting?
Oh, exactly.
It kind of pulls you out.
It does. Now, one of the things too, obviously we get Han's Offsider to a lot of these adventures, and again, probably one of my favourite characters in the entire series, Lando Calrissian. Finally, we get to see him as a youngster, mate. What did you think?
I love the fact that they included Lando. I thought Donald Glover did a great job. Sometimes he was going into more of the having Lando be a caricature, doing too much of the Billy D. Williams instead of Lando, but only a couple of shots. So, I quickly let that go. I'm not going to be held up on a great performance and a great character because of a couple of shots, but those things did stick out. I love Donald Glover as an actor. I loved him in Community and Spider-Man Homecoming, and I couldn't wait to see what he was going to do with this. But yeah, I just felt a couple of shots he was trying to channel Billy D. instead of Lando.
Oh, definitely.
And his cape room is beautiful.
I know.
Oh my God, that's the cape room.
It really is. Like it's interesting. Like we've seen so many parts of the Falcon over the last so many years, 40 years, and now to see a completely separate room that again maybe been being cut off by hand. He could have been just using for spare parts for all we knew, and hoarding for smuggling stuff in there. But again, we see this beautiful new room, and it's filled with capes. Who doesn't need a cape? Yeah.
Yeah, only kept nudging me. I want a cape room. I want a cape room.
Not to mention we get some new stormtroopers. We get the Mimban Trooper, but my favourite is the Range Trooper.
Oh yeah, we got some preview figures from Hasbro, and I saw the Range Trooper, and I couldn't get over their boots. So big and bulky. Like, why do they need big and bulky boots? How are you gonna walk with these big giant moon boots? Yeah. Then you see the movie, it's like, oh, okay, they use those to magnetize onto things like the train and any kind of metal surfaces.
That's right. The other thing, of course, we get is a new bad guy, played by Paul Bettany, Dryden Voss. What did you think of Dryden Voss?
I loved Dryden Voss. I loved him. I thought he was a great character, a great villain. I loved Paul Bettany, his performance. Now that we've seen him so many times as the good character of Vision in the Avengers, like, ooh, how is he going to pull this off? But he was the villain that you love to hate and hate to love. He was just so calm because he knew he was always in control, and he was always 3 steps ahead of everyone, which is how he could be so in control. And I love seeing the very calm villains like Hannibal Lecter. I think that's what made him work in Silence of the Lambs, was that he was always very calm until later on when he had to eat people's faces. But up until then, he was just always playing mind games, and he always knew that he was so further ahead in the plan.
Oh, big time. And again, he's kind of a different character for this series that we haven't seen before. We've seen characters like Jabba the Hutt and many through Clone Wars and parts of Rebels where they're either smugglers or people that work, for the criminal lords, which are in between the courier lanes of spice mines and stuff like that. But in this, we've got a character who loves the history. He's kind of like, I suppose, an archaeologist in some ways, where we get in his yacht this amazing, group of different, specimens and things like he's got an Old Republic set of Mandalorian master armor in there. There's different things from all over, from Alderaan to Duros, the whole thing. What do you think of that sort of new addition to the series?
The trophy room of Easter eggs, as I call it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Seeing the Raiders of the Lost Ark fertility statue. Brilliant. It was brilliant that it was set right in the middle of the frame, and either you saw it immediately or you never saw it because you're watching the action. But when I'm seeing a Star Wars movie, my mind is just focused on Easter eggs, and my mind went right to that. However, when you see the crystal skull behind him, I'm thinking, okay, another Indiana Jones reference with Crystal Skull, until later on I read, oh, wait a minute, that's from Han Solo and the Lost Legacy.
That's right, it is too, isn't it? Yeah. But we've got this, the through line of the film is, of course, about coaxium, this hyperdrive, fuel. And in some ways, it's sort of prevalent to what we're going through in, our own times. Fuel is, a wealth of its own. Oil, all that sort of thing. But what I love about it too is that once he has those, in his possession, then you think, is he smart enough to really, fool somebody like Dryden Voss? But he does it with that wit and charm of Han Solo.
Yeah, but you know what? Speaking of the coaxium, up until now, we always knew that in the spice mines, they mine spice, which is the drug of Star Wars, but now they've switched it to coaxium.
Mm.
What did you think about that switchover? And that Han was there to steal this spice, which he had on the Millennium Falcon, and who's to say that's not going to happen? But first time I saw it, I thought, oh, wait a minute, I can see the reason why they would want to go from a Star Wars drug to more of a fuel source. I thought that was unusual, and we can still do the spice at some point, but switching over storylines or plot points and going from the spice to the coaxium, I thought that's a good move.
I think it's a good move for what they really used it for, and this is something that I've sort of looked at from the outset. How are they going to put in the whole, doing the spice run in under 12 parsecs. Because we know, again, the Falcon itself is quick, it's fast, regardless of the modifications that Han's going to do on the ship in his run of ownership. But adding the lines that, he's basically like splitting the atom almost when it comes to coaxium, he's used that as a booster. And it goes perfectly with the idea of, okay, Han can take this ship and literally go through the spice lines. And I think that really worked, having that new addition being coaxium.
Yeah, and I loved it because it was something they really needed to fulfill this plot. And I thought if they went with a drug reference, it would have to be more maybe of an R rating, which I'm not sure I want to see an R-rated Star Wars movie, but I know I don't want to see Star Wars meets Traffic. I like my Star Wars being PG-13 at the most.
Oh, definitely.
So needing that coaxium was more in line with the Star Wars plotline.
And next up here on the show, we've got Sander De Lange here for part 1 of our look at The Essential Guide to Warfare, written, of course, by the amazing Jason Fry, and it looks at the timeline of Legends Star Wars. Let's get into it. We are going to take a bit of a trip down memory lane. We're going to be looking at one of my personal favourite source books, and I know you like it too, Santa, and it is, of course, Star Wars, The Essential Guide to Warfare, written by Jason Fry and Paul Urquhart. Hopefully I've pronounced your name right there, Paul, but this is a great book, isn't it?
Yes, it really is, as you said, a trip down to memory lane, because it was published in 2012. And yeah, I think it's still one of the last of the essential guides that we ever got.
Mm-hmm.
Before the Disney deal happened. And yeah, because of that, it's also one of the most complete ones, because it really spends the ancient time before the Republic till the very end, with the aftermath of the Using Fong War even already. So it's really thousands and thousands of years of history, really.
It really is. Now, if you listeners have got the book at home, you might want to grab it out, because what we're going to do is we're literally going to go through the book and do a bit of a commentary, if you like, on the timeline of Star Wars, different events that we like. But also, we're just going to chat about just how awesome this book is, because it's not only is it a timeline, it's a bit of an in-universe, the way Jason Fry's written it. So it's as if you were part of Star Wars history. And of course, it starts with Before the Republic, and it starts with the Rakatan, which is part of that great series of comics that came out with Dark Horse Comics. Do you remember that line of comics?
The good old Knights of the Old Republic. And, actually, Knights of the Old Republic already being the second or the third series, so a bit depending on how you count those Tales of the Jedi stories.
And this goes right.
Of course, there's amazing game, and of course, amazing video games.
Yeah.
That make big references to all of this.
And of course, this goes to that Dawn of the Jedi series of comics, and we even had a Dawn of. If I remember, was it Dawn of the Jedi? There was a book that
there
came out.
was one novel, yes.
Yeah,
Into the Void, I think it was.
That's right. Right.
Let me check for a moment. Yep, Into the Void. It's the very first Legends book in the timeline by now. One of the last that was published, but one of the first in the actual timeline now.
And these Rakatan were ruthless. It looked like they enslaved quite a few different worlds at the start of this. I mean, this is before the Republic.
This was when Tatooine was still a lake.
What? Yeah.
They showed that also in one of the panels. They were like, "Oh, we see the two familiar twin suns." Caption: Tatooine. And you look a bit further down the image, like, "All right, it's all water." That's weird.
And on page 5, you can even see a Hutt warrior We're talking about literally a hut armed to the teeth, ready to go out and do battle.
That's one of those shell huts, isn't it?
It
or
is.
Or is this pre-shell hut? No, it's before that even.
Unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, again, just showing you new areas of the time. And the great thing about this, if you look on page 7, you can see that they've actually got some of the Rakatan have actually got their huge warships and dreadnoughts. Now, the sort of style back here, again, it's de-aging that technology that we know of Star Wars, but it's still high-tech in comparison to anything we know.
Yes, it is. And I also really like that one of the ship, of actually both of them, they are ships from Xim the Despot, which is, of course, one of those really early references from the Han Solo novels that came out in the 80s. I think it was the second one or so that had them looking for Crystal Skull. That was the masthead of one of his ships, which, of course, is also really lovely referenced in the new Solo movie. Because if you look at Drayden Voss' yard and his big collection, and you see one Crystal Skull in there, it's not a reference to Indiana Jones 4. It's a reference to Xim the Despot.
It has
from
too.
Which we see the ships over here.
We do. And on page 8, you actually find out where the name Bunta Eve came from. It came from a warrior chieftain by the name of Bunta the Hunt. That's right, Bunta the Hutt.
Yeah, it figures that they do celebrate a hut during an event on a planet ruled by a hut, after all. I mean, they really are the Dutch word is egoist.
Yeah.
Well, what's the thing? Yeah, you know what I mean.
I know what you mean,
They're really self-centered. Egotistical, there we go.
That's right. So, I mean, on the planet Kavari is now called Bunta, thanks to their tribute to the Hutt who captured it from Xim the Despot. So it's interesting. This is all about Taiwan, obviously, the Taiwanese, and you can even see the sort of influence that their ships or their designs had on the Hammerhead Republic ships that we see later in Knights of the Old Republic, which comes up very soon. So again,
yeah, that's actually quite visible also already on the ship on page 10. I mean, you already see a hammerhead kind of beginning of the ship.
Oh yeah, which I've always liked that design, that sort of design of a hammerhead. We see obviously in Republic, but in Rogue One we see it to great effect where it's literally a full charge and they ram into those Star Destroyers.
One of my favourite scenes of Rogue One.
It's just brilliant. It's brilliant. I mean, there's two things I love about that. Is that end battle, and I love everything about on Jedha, the work of obviously Donnie Yen's amazing martial artistry, but just the little bit of lore and stuff like that you see that Saw Gerrera's hiding in his little hideaway there too. Again, everything they have there is secret, and even the way the fallen Jedi sculpture on the ground that they're hiding in, it's brilliant.
Yeah, and it's a really beautiful location, and actually it's quite ironic that you bring up Jeddah, because next month, to the date, we are recording this the 8th of July, the 8th of August I'm leaving for a holiday to Jordan.
Ooh.
And somewhere during those 10 days that I will be there, I will be visiting Jeddah, the Wadi Rum Desert, and try to find out. And we try to find out exactly where those mountains are that you see in the movie.
Oh, so they did film a location there?
They did, yeah. Well, some of it obviously, but yeah, because there is, the scene where Jin and Cassian are on that ridge.
Yeah.
Looking out to Jeddah City.
Yep.
Originally, there was a small extra bit planned there. There was going to be a stormtrooper with one of those camel aliens, beasts, They was walking past them down below the desert floor. And that was their favorite scene of filming, actually. But yeah, of course, it didn't end up in a movie. But just seeing that camel dressed as a new creature and the stormtrooper really made them feel like they were in Star Wars. So
wow.
So I really can't wait to be lying on that ridge myself.
That's brilliant. I wonder if it's the same scenes that, or same location, where they shot Prometheus, Ridley Scott's film, with the Prometheus ship lands.
Yeah. Actually, that was Iceland.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes, it is, and actually also quite nearby, I think, from Lamu, from Rogue One.
Ah, nice. I like it. Now, listeners, if you're
or Starkiller Base. I mean, there's a bit of a confusion what was exactly filmed where in Iceland, but try to sort that mess out also.
So, listeners, if you're into Jedi lore, this is the part where it gets really interesting, where Jason Fry actually gives us a little bit of a lowdown in the Legends timeline where it all began, and that is, of course, on the planet Tython. Now, if you're not Force-powered, it's not a planet you want to be on.
Yeah, quite dangerous planet. I mean, that's also why it always surprised me that in the Old Republic MMORPG that they evacuated a whole bunch of Twi'leks, a whole tribe, to that planet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, all right, Twi'leks are warriors, but is it really that safe to be evacuating a bunch of people to a planet that's also quite dangerous? With I think that village was also called Kalikori or something like that.
Yes, yeah, it was.
Which, of course, returns also in Rebels, again, as the Kalikori, as the memory statue that Hera has.
It's interesting. Like,
there really are a lot of connections still valid, aren't there?
Oh, they really are. And what we see in that Dawn period, Dawn of the Jedi, we see that there's no Sith, there's a Jedi, or Jedi. So it's spelled JED -AII. So with that, they study both the Ashlar and the Bogan, which is pretty much the split and the balance of the light and the dark. But what we do see in that too is the early styles of the lightsaber. So if you go through onto page, where are we up to? Page number 17. You can actually see a picture of a katana-like shaped sword with an alchemical blade. So that's basically the Force has been imbued with it.
Yeah, that's even before they used any kind of crystal, I think, right?
Correct, yeah. Which
Yes.
I think went on with the Sith themselves, the Sith in the Golden Age of the Sith, which was a series of comics written by our dear friend Kevin J. Anderson. And they all had alchemical blades. But so if you actually go onto page number 19, folks, you can see how lightsaber technology kicked off. So they had Force-imbued swords as their first point and call. And then the early lightsabers were actually literally a handle with a crystal in it and a battery pack to push the light out with.
I always wondered how, if that cord, if it's just one set of length, or if you can pull on it, then more of it comes out. Because otherwise, it must have been quite difficult to fight with, because you have a really limited reach with just a small cord.
That's right. Or if somebody cuts the cord, then you lose your power.
Yeah. It really isn't that effective.
That's right.
All things considered. But then again, maybe they were just like, well, this happens way too often. Let's meditate for a few hundred years and try to come up with a better design, because this ain't working.
Oh, I know. Rechargeable batteries.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, but
You really have to invent Wi-Fi.
Yeah, well, that's right. Oh, my goodness. And on the next page, you can actually see, of course, the amazing old outfit of Darth Bane. This is not the canon one. This is not what we see in the Clone Wars. But I actually still quite like that outfit.
Yeah, well, the outfit, yes. The whole thing covering his head, I never was quite a fan of, to be honest. I mean, it was good when it was written in the story, but every time I see it in art, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, the arts always have been inconsistent with it anyway, also, because we had quite a few images with it already, where it was already off his face. And I think not even in that Bane trilogy, they even said that it could go off.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's really...
He was mainly bald in that, wasn't he? He was just shaved head, pretty much.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's...
Bit sunken eyes, yeah.
It is. Now, one of the great things about this book is there's a lot of galactic maps, and particularly covering the battles. On page 22, folks, you can actually get the ancient Alsarcan conflicts. And it gives you a timeline of the battles. It gives you the actual hyperspace routes in and around those, and exactly where it was. So it's actually in and around the Carillion area where this all happened.
Yeah, the good old Carillion hegemony.
That's right.
Being a big part of it.
You look through there. I mean,
of course, Jagul, Runa, Deveron.
That's right. Quart, Nemoidia.
And of course, really almost at the edge of it, Calabra, which is so lovely that we have a person like Jason Fry writing this, because he knows so much. I mean, Calabra being one of those very versed planets in the good old Droid cartoon show.
That's right. And if you really look close, you can actually see on the actual Perliman trade route, you can see the moons of Bogdan, which was a reference from episode 2.
Yeah. But I always did like that we also did visit those moons in the good old Jango Fett PlayStation 2 game.
You did too, yeah. I remember that one. That was a good little game, man.
Yeah. I mean, and that's also another one of those examples that they just could have left in the canon. I mean, there aren't that many weird connections to other stuff in it, and it does give a good explanation on just how he was recruited by Dooku.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, it actually shows that, he had a respect for the Mandalorians.
He did, yes.
And a Jedi has to.
He also wiped out most of them on Galidran, but but he sure respected them.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they're cunning in what they do, and that's the thing is, I've loved all those stories up to now. Jester Mariel, all that sort of stuff that we had of the original Boba Fett stories. But even with the spin they've done now, this newer version of things that George brought about in the Clone Wars and then later into Rebels as well, just as interesting.
Yeah.
It really is. But as we move forward, we actually get to see some of the Crusades on pages 26 and 27. We start to see the Republic starting to really form together. And this is great because, again, it's showing the expansion of these Crusades. And we get to see Hut Space. Hut Space.
Yes, lovely Hut Space. Which is also featured so lovely in one of those fantasy flight novels. They really delved into that territory. And it still remains one of my favorites of fantasy flight games, that book.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I've loved. One thing I loved about even the Legends novels back in the 90s was when they used to do a lot of the island hopping, or in this case, planet hopping, in whether it's the anthologies or even my favourites were X-Wing Rogue Squadron. Mr. Stackpole would take us around from planet to planet and go, right, Curran Horn, what are you going to do? I'm going to go over here, sir. You can't go where he needed to
go. Yeah.
It's brilliant.
And of course, let's not forget, Yep, Commander. But that's not Stackpole, that's Aaron Elston. But
Aaron Elston. I am still.
God rest his soul.
He's done, and his last novel was still close to my heart. So
Yeah.
I miss him. I miss Aaron. You know, he's one of the greats when it comes to just writing adventure stories in general. Really entertaining writer he was.
He really was.
He really was, yeah. But looking through this, we could see that the expansion is starting to happen. And, of course, we're starting to see technology. And on 29, we get to see the quad drive yards with both turbo lasers and tractor beams happening.
Yeah, there's really. I think that must have been one of the starts of really the technology, how even we see it in the movies. I mean, really the ships start to look a lot like them already. We have the Planet Defender already coming up, the big cannon and all that.
That's right.
But really the start of the look, how it looks today.
It really has. I mean, and you know, you go through it, they've started things like the capital ships. Now, this is all nice, the old Republic era. So we've got Zim's Scimitar, we've got the Alsaken's Gia-class battle cruisers. But if you look on page number 31, you get to really start to see, particularly, some of the big ones that are the Old Republic Sith Harrower class dreadnoughts. Now, this is straight up Empire. This is Imperial Star Destroyers. In this case, these are dreadnoughts.
Not even that. Doesn't it remind you of that new ship that Fantasy Flight Games made for Armada?
Oh, it does too. Yeah, actually, no, it does. Yeah. Look at it. Yeah.
How was that ship called again?
And it had. Are you talking about the one with the TIE fighter wings on the sides, like a stealth Death Star?
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so it kind of looked like this, but I think it was a little bit narrower on the bridge, but it had it had those sort of radar foils that
yes,
very much like it actually when you look at it. It's crazy.
Yeah,
amazing, isn't it? Just how huge these things are, and it's great because on page 33 you get to see the size comparison. Now this is back of the showing you everything up to the Clone Wars, basically the corvettes being up to 200 meters long. Frigates up to 400, which of course is the Nebulon B. But then we start to see the heavy cruisers, Star Destroyers, battle cruisers, and of course the 5,000 meter dreadnoughts.
Which is probably still dwarfed by the current dreadnought from The Last Jedi.
Oh yeah.
Because that one is even more massive, isn't it?
It's huge. Absolutely massive. And actually, one of the great things is you get a really nice picture of the Malevolence, of course, which is Grievous's ship, on page number 34. Again, I love that introduction in the Clone Wars of that big, because of course it has the ion cannon attached to it.
Yeah, it's really one of those only times that they actually really used an ion cannon effectively in a big war.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, during the evacuation of Hoth, it was also quite useful. But they really haven't done much with the ion cannons, haven't they?
Not much at all.
This.
But if you look at it too, I mean, this is where technology really upped it. I mean, one shot from one of those things just completely takes all power out of a ship. Can take even the life systems out of a ship. So I mean, you're looking at something that can literally close down an army in one shot.
But there's really everything is based on technology anyway, so it would have been one of the most effective weapons. I mean, if I was a weapon designer, if I was Tony Stark in the Star Wars galaxy, that's the kind of weapons I would have tried to design and perfect as much as possible, make it as portable as possible, easily rechargeable. I mean, it seems to me a better way of fighting than just using a bunch of droids of clones.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Now, the next chapter deals with one of the great Dark Horse Comics lines. Of course, that is the Great Hyperspace War, where they had the Supreme Sith Lord. This is the big baddie of the old days, and that's, of course, Darth Naga Sato, who basically found a way through the hyperspace lanes to cut through and take out enemy in between. But if you look through it, a lot of it is really starting to show the technology being used, particularly by the Sith, to really get in and strike and get out, almost like guerrilla style a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing is with those comics, always when I read them, I mean, they are a favorite, but it really does show a bit their age. That they really were one of the first comics that has been made, and they really did maybe took it a bit too far to create their own look. But then again, yeah, that's great and all that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I've always been a bit conflicted about it. I mean, on one hand, I like it that they went their own way.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I always wonder, didn't you go a bit too far? But, yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree there. I mean, look, the one I do think they sort of did their own, even Anakin Skywalker, was Tales of the Jedi, where we got basically two brothers in a team, and Eula Keldroma, of course, was the main draw card there. And of course, his story was that he ended up becoming a Sith Lord, and with Exo Kun, and between the two of them, obviously he came out on top, knocked out the top dog, and part of his fall was killing his brother, but it also brought him back.
That's always what made him so great was the story Redemption.
Yeah.
Where he is basically cut off from the Force by Nomi, living on Renvar, and then still training the daughter of Nomi. That's really one of the most powerful stories, I think, that has been written by Dark Horse.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's great. I've still got that trade paperback. It is probably one of the first Dark Horse comics I bought from Star Wars at the time out here in Australia. They were pushing Tales of the Jedi harder than they were any of the other lines at the time. You couldn't get Dark Empire out here at all. I mean, that was the first one that went out. And we had to wait another year before we got that out here. But Tales of the Jedi was all over the place.
Yeah. And of course, on page 41, we have those other famous Sith Lords that everybody knew and loved, Revan and Malak.
That's right, Darth Revan, who for ages everyone keeps saying, Kylo Ren's just Revan again, man!
Yeah, actually, when you see him like this, the only thing missing is the crossguard or the lightsaber.
Yeah!
But did we ever get the story, by the way, how Malak lost his jaw?
I don't think we did. No, that's one thing we probably never found. Which, I mean, obviously, it's, he's injured. Like they wouldn't just put that on there.
Probably a lightsaber will
could be.
It also.
Could end up being he talked back to, Revan, and Revan just gone, here, whoosh, you ain't talking no more.
Yeah, and he's like, mechanical jaw, still talking.
That's brilliant. And which brings us to...
But I think, actually, one more thing about this. I think, wasn't it this guide also that showed us one of the... Which actually was the first one to show the real face of Revan behind the mask.
Oh, yeah, it does too. Yeah, right there.
Because the game always did have multiple options.
Yeah.
And I do remember one other piece of art also showing it.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, just references that, of course, he had light, and it's him.
That's right. Because at the end of the day,
it must have been one of the first, if not the first image that showed him as, a white male with a beard.
Yeah, because in any other thing, again, you were playing that character, so they couldn't really show.
Exactly, and not many of the faces I really liked, and actually the one face that I used was actually the one that became the official canon one.
Oh,
so
really?
It really was coincidence that they picked the one that I was using.
So. Oh, wow.
Which, of course, they didn't knew. Which, of course, didn't matter to them, even if they knew, but...
Nice.
But yeah, it really was a fun coincidence when they started to reveal how he really looked like, and I was like, hey, that's nice.
Have you actually played the new version of KOTOR that's on iPad and iPhone?
No, I haven't. Is there anything different about it?
I'm not sure. I'm just interested to find out myself because I keep seeing it advertised around the place. So I'm actually thinking about downloading it and playing it off on my quiet times and stuff like that because I love that game. And, at the end of the day, it's literally a huge role-playing game. It's massive. The possibilities on that game are endless. So I only played and probably filled out 65% of the game when I had that on the Nintendo.
Did you hear that? They shut down the main reactor. Will be destroyed for sure.
And a huge thanks to our guests this week, of course, Techno Retro Dads hosts JediShua and Shazbazzar. Thanks, guys, for coming on the show and having a chat. Of course, to Sander De Lange at TK421. Thanks for being on the show. And, of course, Richard Woloski of Skywalking Through Neverland. You can catch both Richard and Sander on the next episode for part 2 of their chats about Star Wars here on the Fantha From Down Under. Catch us at www.fanthatracks.com. We'll catch you next time. May the Force be with you.